Words appear. Content note: violence against children, racialized violence. This film may be overstimulating to those with visual and auditory sensitivity. Words appear. What's your perspective? An animated sketch that resembles a duck or a rabbit. Words appear. Duck. Rabbit. Words appear over sketches of two children. Non-functional behavior. A person in a dress hits themselves in the head. POW appears in yellow over their head. An animated child knocks a book off a table. Non-compliance.
Special education has become a data-based enterprise, requiring educators to tally tons of target behaviors during our discrete time trials with tables and graphs and track students' changes over time.
A behavior tracking sheet.
We write down antecedents to behaviors so we can understand consequences, because in applied behavior analysis we seek to use observable and measurable behaviors to encourage socially significant development. While they teach our students how to make eye contact, I can see the love dripping off their smiles, and how touched they are when a student looks back without a command.
Merrick stands at a desk, his hands crossed.
This requires working tirelessly to consistently respond to students so that their non-functional behaviors will be extinguished and replaced.
An axe cuts through a wax hand.
Students who do not comply are patiently prompted until they do, whether their non-compliance is a subtle refusal or punch.
A reinforcer box filled with sweets.
My co-workers do all of the above with gusto, running on caffeine, sugar, and dedication to helping their students live normal lives.
Stimulus. Behaviorism. The word brain sits inside a brain-shaped figure. Red and blue arrows circle inside of it. Response. No thought. Only do.
A system of interventions using operant conditioning to force people with developmental disabilities to appear outwardly normal.
ABA. An animated sketch. Pavlov's dog and a bell. Drool drips from the mouth. Words appear in red. No feel. Only drool. This is my friend Juan. Juan taps on a letterboard. Words appear in parentheses on a person holding the letterboard. His scribe. Words appear in parentheses with an arrow pointing to Juan. His voice. Merrick signs. Before you had a letterboard or scribe, what did you do if someone wasn't listening? Words appear in parentheses next to him. My interpreter is off screen. An orange box appears as Juan types on his letterboard. It would be very difficult. I would try to get their attention by saying their name. But my mouth has issues saying the right word. People thought I was silent and thought I didn't have anything to say. This is my friend Noor. Noor wears a red dress and sits in a wheelchair. He types on a phone. His voice.
My language was a lot of crying, pointing at things, shouting, repeating stuff. It was a lot of talking with my body and repetitive motions.
Noor types. He has short curly hair and blue earrings.
I spoke with writing very young too. Before I was in school even.
A person wears a shirt and glasses. This is me, Merrick. He types on a device. My voice.
Growing up, I was gifted. But my peers were a mystery. Now, I work with autistic youth as a paraprofessional. I see so much of myself in them.
He signs. Noor types on his phone.
I was forced to talk even though it was unnatural to me from a young age, and now I have it in my head that the only safe way for me to be is verbal.
Juan types on his letterboard. I learned to read by watching TV shows like Sesame Street and Thomas the Tank Engine. I also learned how by listening to my parents teach my brothers how to do it when they were younger. I cannot remember learning how to read in school. I think that they assumed that I did not want or need to learn. Table ready. Table ready equals compliance.
No one ever used ABA on me, but my drama teacher often saw me flapping on stage and told me to stop because, quote, real people don't do that. And so I worked to extinguish all my stemming both on stage and off.
Quiet hands mean shut up.
I wanted to be a real person.
He holds hands with a statue and smiles. Words appear over images of Noor, Juan, and Merrick. We are non-speaking autistics, and we have something to say. The duck/rabbit sketch reappears next to the words, what's your perspective? Duck appears under the sketch, and rabbit appears over it. Animated children appear. Self-regulation. One child hits themselves in the head. Another child knocks a book off the table. Civil disobedience.
Autistic people have loud hands. We flap and twirl and hum and hum and stim. For every emotion we feel, there is a corresponding stim. And we never say don't stim in public for the same reasons you don't tell a neurotypical not to smile or frown. We connect deeply when we share our special interests. No one forces anyone else to hug each other because we know that our sensory issues make interpersonal touch too painful for many of us.
A hand crushes the wax hand.
All communication methods are welcome, and no one ever has to speak to be listened to because our empathy is not limited by our similarities. Our eyes are not the windows to our souls, so please stop staring in them. Read our poetry instead.
A stack of poetry books.
We presume competence and practice interdependence, and hold protests in front of the White House when the government stomps all over our rights as human beings. That is autistic culture, and it is fucking beautiful.
Aaron laughs and stims. An ABC log. A hand writes under antecedent. Student throws book to floor. Behavior. Teacher physically forces student to pick up book and flip through each page. Consequence. Student learns physical force is an appropriate way to get what you want. Function. Teacher enforces compliance. Merrick stands on rocks by the ocean.
I I grew up staring into the Monterey Bay when something troubled me, hoping to find a little beauty in the ocean's wrath.
The waves. Show me water. In parentheses, teacher's command. Flashcards on a desk. The wax hand is moved from a flashcard of a swing to a flashcard of a glass of water. An arrow points to the correct response. A token is added to a token board. The reinforcer box is opened and a hand picks out a hot tamale. Words appear with an arrow pointing to the hot tamale. Reinforcer. Nor on a porch.
As I got older, I was forced to speak their way, but it wasn't natural. It made me feel tired and sad all the time, but I got really good at doing it. I even joined speech and debate.
Nor rocks in his wheelchair.
So, as a trans person of color, I don't really get to stop having trauma. I live in a society where I know that I'm one mistake away from being killed by police.
A heart-shaped wind chime. Words appear in parentheses next to Noor, his other voice.
The term that's popular in race theory right now is code switching, where like I have one suit of armor that I wear when I'm walking down the street, where I have to make myself sound really proper, and I have to make sure that I am speaking in a way that is eloquent and very easy for people to understand. I believed I could grow into an adult and do things and have a life because I saw different parts of me out in the world.
Merrick signs. I-L-Y. In parentheses, I love you. Merrick sits in the backyard with his friend.
The connections I have made with people since losing my ability to speak have been deeper than many of those I made when I could still speak.
It's things like the school to prison pipeline. It's things like making sure that traditional ABA being, torture, isn't the main method we use to treat kids. I recognize that autism isn't a thing to be treated, but you know what I mean. Like the main resource we give parents to help their autistic children learn how to deal with the outside world.
Juan and scribe. On his letterboard. I did experience ABA. It was a very terrible form of abuse that tried to correct things about me that were not actually bad. Things that are a part of my identity as an autistic person. I do not think ABA is effective because it tries to erase my autism and my identity.
I am supposed to be in a prison. I am supposed to be in an institution. I am not supposed to be in general society. People like me don't happen because we've designed people like me away.
On a desk, an animation of a school.
ABA amplifies the racial and economic disparities we see in general education and society by conflating goodness and intelligence with compliance.
An arrow points away from the school with the words compliance subject. The school fades into prison.
It is practically tailor-made for the preschool to prison pipeline.
Raindrops, a school crossing sign.
I cannot tell you what it feels like to experience ABA, but I can tell you what I saw when I worked for an ABA school.
A person takes tokens off the token board. The water and swing carts, a yellow pin with the word no on it. Show me water. A hand moves the wax hand to the one with the water cup.
Two of my students had adjacent desks. One was white, one was black. The white child was heavily medicated. The black child was constantly put in halts.
Show me the water. The wax hand touches the pin. A hand moves it to the cup of water. A token is added to the board.
My coworker wouldn't let the white boy have a drink of water until he spoke the word. It was my job to pass him the glass.
The wax hand swipes the cards and pin off the desk. Words appear. Non-compliance. A hand grabs the wax hand and sets the cards and pin back on the table.
I saw the plaster fall from the wall where my coworker had pinned the black child. He had dared to struggle when she demanded he sit down.
Waves roll. A seagull on the sand. Show me water. The wax hand goes for the pin. A hand grabs it and puts it to the water card. The hand crushes the wax hand. Trauma. A sketch of a child being restrained. An article. Autistic child dies after being restrained.
I asked my boss before I quit how many students go back to inclusive classrooms. She could only think of one.
Show me water. The flashcards. The wax hand points to the glass of water. Compliance. A token is added to the board. Rapid fire reinforcement.
Great work. You were so smart. Now you get your hot tamale.
Merrick sits in a closet. The sketches of a child being restrained appear. Merrick fists his hands and shakes. Tears stream from the restrained child's face.
I dared to cry rivers when my students' tears could have carved out a canyon beckoning beneath the Monterey Bay.
Monterey Canyon and the Grand Canyon drawings. An arrow points to Monterey Canyon deeper.
The history of the civil rights movement in this country is broad and deep. Not only are my friends, and I a continuation of that, but so are our non-compliant students.
The wax hand reconstructs. Hands crumple an ABC sheet log. The token board and reinforcer box are thrown away. Show me protest. Show me civil disobedience. A child swipes a book off a table. Juan and scribe. On Juan's letterboard. I want to be an author and an encouraging advocate for my community. I also want more non-speaking people to have access to an education. My best teacher was probably Professor Daly at Nova. She taught my English literature class. She was very encouraging and believed in me. Nova, Northern Virginia Community College.
If you see two non-speaking people having a conversation in public, I don't want people to sit there and go, oh, what poor people, I wonder if they need anything. I want them to sit there and go, oh, okay, that's a person who doesn't speak. Like, I want people to normalize it and have this as just an everyday thing.
On Juan's letterboard, I want us all to have access to a form of communication that works for us. I want the speaking world to see us as creative and loving individuals who are spectacular and open to the universe. Merrick at a table. He types complicity, compliance repeatedly.
I just want people to stop hurting children.
On Juan's letterboard, it would be a very peaceful world with lots of nice, soft sounds and a lot of other non-speaking people in more academic and public spaces. There would not be any forms of violence like racism and ableism. Competence is always presumed. Neurodiversity is celebrated and encouraged. An ABC log. Antecedent. Student throws book to floor. Behavior. Teacher says, I see you don't want to read. You can also point here. The no button. Let's do something else. Consequence. Student feels heard and respected. Learns another way to say no. Function. Teacher teaches skills to communicate consent and boundaries.
We are our own people. We can make our own decisions.
On Juan's letterboard, I want us to feel like we can be ourselves when we walk outside, and that the world will accept us.
My community is full of light and potential, and we do not need your awareness. We need your acceptance. We don't need your cures or treatments. We need supports that permit us to be ourselves while dreaming up a future. If we cannot learn by sitting at a table quietly, then teach us outside. My students throw books on the ground and refuse to sit down and would rather be themselves than drown in this neurotypical world because their neurology gives them no other choice. I am filled with pride at their courage and tenacity. They remind me non-compliance is a social skill. Most of all, stop telling our hands to be quiet and then insisting, we need you to speak for us. We have our own voices, we just need you to listen to them. I cannot meet every autistic person in the world, but if I could, I would tell them, you are not broken, you are beautiful. I would tell them they were never more real than when they were themselves. Because I cannot tell them all this, I'm asking you to help me. They aren't empty shells. They are people like me.
The words, people like me, fade in front of the ocean. Credits appear. People Like Me, a film by Merrick Sedgwick, Nora Pervez, Merrick Sedgwick, Juan Vong, and Laura Anderson, Michael Budway, Ashton Sorrells, Aaron Starr, Timberpaw. Editing, Jackson Patrick Sternan, Merrick Sedgwick. Film scoring, TJ Sclafani. Camera, Emma Juncosa, Merrick Sedgwick, and Quentin LaRue, Christine Marshall. Fearless Minds Theatrical.